President Obama is pressing hard today for Republicans to get in line and pass an arms treaty with Russia. Here's how he laid out his case this afternoon.
This treaty has been vetted for 7 months now. It's gone through 18 hearings. It has support from senators of both parties. It has broad bipartisan support from national security advisors and secretaries of defense and secretaries of state from previous administrations, both Democrat and Republican, and that it's absolutely essential to our national security. We need to get it done.
That is absolutely right. And it's about more than counting Russian nukes. National security and American prestige is also on the line. Will the majority of Republicans see the light and get behind the treaty like Senators McCain, Lugar, and former Senator Danforth? If they block the president on this, will they truly be a party, as Danforth says, that will be, quote, beyond redemption? Richard Burt was the former U.S. ambassador to Germany. He was also the chief American negotiator in the START treaty talks with the former Soviet Union in 1991. Ambassador Burt, it's a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Now, let's talk about another former ambassador, Ambassador Danforth. He was, of course, George W. Bush's ambassador to the United Nations. He says, look, if the Republican Party doesn't get behind Richard Lugar here, the Republican senator from Indiana, that they're going to be beyond redemption if they don't ratify this. Do you agree?
Well, yeah. I don't know what beyond redemption actually means. I don't know if it has a meaning anymore in Washington politics, but I do believe that that not only Republicans but also Democrats need to understand that the current dysfunctional state of politics on Capitol Hill will have a real foreign policy impact. Not only is this treaty about the reduction of nuclear weapons, but it is about stopping the spread of nuclear weapons to countries like Iran and North Korea. And it's also about building a new constructive relationship with Russia. We can't forget that Russia just this year supported the Obama administration in placing sanctions on Iran. They're helping us in Afghanistan. And I'm afraid if the treaty is not ratified, that the constructive relationship we have now will return to the confrontation of the past. So it's important for American foreign policy to be bipartisan again.
Ambassador Burt, let's talk about some more consequences. You laid out some there. Russia is going to be less likely to work with us on Iran's nukes. That's obviously enormously important. How about loose nukes in Russia? Does that play into account here? If we can't verify Russia's nuclear program, does that make it more likely that there are loose nukes?
It absolutely does. It's important to recognize that the treaty that I helped negotiate has lapsed. So we no longer have inspectors visiting Russia verifying the terms of that treaty. So we have less transparency. And Russia is probably the world's #1 source of nuclear materials and fissile material that can be used to fabricate nuclear weapons. Under the new treaty, we'll have an improved verification regime. We'll have more transparency. So the risks that sensitive materials could lead Russia, go to third parties that might want to develop their own nuclear weapons will just simply go up. So that is a very important concern. And building transparency and cooperation with Russia on nuclear weapons has got to be the foundation of a regime of stopping the spread of nuclear weapons worldwide.
Now, I think that loose nukes is the #1 national security issue. God forbid it gets into the wrong hands. So I agree with you. And you negotiated that treaty for a Republican president, and the Democrats signed on to it at the time. But conservatives, or at least some conservatives, a large portion of them, including the Republican senators, and a large portion of them, have changed their mind. For example, Charles Krauthammer wrote in the Washington Post saying that this treaty is irrelevant, and he said, quote, "The problem is never the weapon, it is the nature of the regime controlling the weapon." Now, is that a fair point that, look, the Russians aren't going to use their nukes, so shouldn't we be, worried about knocking over dictators like Ahmadinejad more than we are about verifying Russia's nuclear program?
Yeah, well, that's exactly the point, though, the nature of the regime, the nature of the government. And we have an ability to have an impact on the nature of the Russian government. President Medvedev is cooperating closely with us in places like Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Iran, countries that are dangerous areas and where we want to keep nuclear weapons under control. But if we undercut President Medvedev and his efforts to cooperate with us, we, I think, could forget about Russian cooperation on these very, very crucial issues. The Russians can play a very important role along with the United States as leaders in stopping the spread of nuclear weapons. They have as much to be concerned about, if not more, given their geographical location, about nuclear terrorism and the spread of nuclear weapons than we do. But we need a Russian leader that we can work with. And it appears to me, and I think the Obama administration as well, is that we have that in Dmitry Medvedev.
Ambassador Burt, real quick last question for you. I mean, it looks like some of the Republican senators think that they're doing political damage to President Obama. But how much damage does it do to the country if our president is not trusted in terms of when he goes to do negotiations? They think, you're not going to get it past the Republicans anyway.
Well, there's 2 points here. One is that they may think they're doing damage to President Obama, but if this treaty is not ratified, we will regret it after the fact. And I think people will remember that it was the Republicans, not the Democrats, that stopped this treaty, and they will pay a political price. But much more importantly, this is one issue, a very clear issue, where we all have a joint interest in stopping the spread of nuclear weapons and curbing the risks of a nuclear holocaust somewhere. And that's something where I think Republicans and Democrats share something that used to be called the national interest. And in approaching this issue, that's what we need to think about. What's best for America and its friends and allies as a whole?
All right. Thank you, Ambassador Richard Burt. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.